Live.
So, hi guys, this is Rabia Saleem, and thank you for the show here. I have a co-host here, Fahad Ahmed. So, in the third episode, it is me who's beginning the session because I'm so excited for the speaker I have for the session. So, fortunately, I got selected for the LIMSI this year, which is a leadership graduation program from PMI, and there I met a brilliant person, a soul who had actually enabled me to know about myself and actually to interpret about people. So I have become a more of a kind of a cautious person. So we are very honored to have Aileen Ellis with us. Hi Aileen, how are you? Good morning.
Good morning. It's nice to be here.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, for giving us the time and to the community as you always do. So I'll just start with the very first question of the session. We all know that we are going with the COVID 19 thing, all over the globe. So, what do you think? How do we really need to prioritize the relationships during this time of isolation?
Well, I think we're living in a time of uncertainty.
Yeah.
And a lot of us, including myself, we're spending almost all of our time with one or two or three other people. And we're not spending much time, if any time, with the rest of society. And so I think we're experiencing a lot of stress. And that stress can lead to anxiety. And different people handle anxiety in different ways. And so some of us are having a hard time managing our emotions. And even if we're really good managing our emotions, we might be having a hard time dealing with people who are struggling to manage their emotions, especially if we're living in tight quarters. And so I think we really need to depend on each other. We really need to focus on relationships right now.
Okay. Thank you for Aileen. Thank you for joining us. This is Fahad, and again, I'm like Rabia. I'm really excited because after LIMC and last LIM, it is our first interaction, and you've been my first, uh, you know, uh, program tutor in the LIMC, so that I have learned a lot from you. Since then, I'm trying to be myself. I've understood myself. But again, this is the time this is the time that we really actually need to not only focus on ourselves but also people around ourselves. So when you say relationships, so typically it comes our family members or co-workers come to our mind, right? So tell us, what do you mean by do you mean when you say relationship? What does relationship means to you?
Okay. And, relationships, I think, is an interesting word. And there's really just so many different kinds of relationships. So for me, I think the most important relationship is the relationship that we have with ourselves. And I think often we don't even really think about that relationship. So it's the relationship we have with ourselves. For me, it's the relationship I have with my husband. It's the relationship I have with my housemates. And so that's interesting for me. I have two adult children, and the four of us are living in the same house for the first time in quite a long time. Okay? And I call them my children, okay? But they're used to having their own apartments and their own lives. And we decided to come together in the same household. And that happened just a few days ago. So that's a very interesting dynamic for adults in the same household together. I think there's our relationship with our coworkers. And for me, I run my own business. So I don't necessarily have coworkers, but there's the relationship I have with my customers. So that's an important relationship to me. I'm one of 8 children, and we live in, I have to count for a minute, I think it's 6 different states, 2 different countries. So there's the relationship I have with my extended family and relationship I have with my friends. Maybe one we often don't think about is the relationship I have with nature the relationship I have with animals. I'm a big animal lover, which will shock people because that's a very recent thing. And then there's the relationship that we're not necessarily part of, but there's the relationship that others are having with each other that maybe we're helping to facilitate. So, as an example, in your master's class, right at the beginning, at least I hope I helped facilitate you as a group building relationships with each other or with me on the outside. So, I think there's all different kinds of relationships to think about.
That's certainly very true. That I'll be sharing my own experience when we begin with the session at Lindsay, and we started to know about the colors, and we distributed into different groups, and got to know who are reds and who are greens. So since then, especially now when we could not be there for the second session, and we are being with one another through the virtual meetups, so that has really helped us a lot. So you were telling us about different relationships that we have as an individual person. So let's start with the relationship that we have with ourselves, right? So what do you think, how do we prioritize that?
And I think that's a really good question. And, I think it's a question that most of us overlook. For me, I think about my husband, I think about my children, but I also need to think about myself and how do I take care of myself, especially in this time of stress and this time of isolation. So one of the things I think about, and I learned this from my mom really, but it's to ask myself, what's really, really important to me? And for me, and I'm red, I have a list and my list is in priority. But, when I think about what's important to me, my faith comes first. And then after my faith comes my health. And and that may sound real selfish to put my health ahead of my family, but I can't take care of my family if I'm not healthy. So there's my health, okay? And then after my health, and this truly is after my health, there's my family, and then there's all my other relationships, my extended family, my friends, my customers. And so when I think about myself, I really need to put what's important to me in priority. And then again, from my mom, I need to think about where I spend my time. And I need to spend my time on the things that are most important to me. And so I'll start with faith. And I know we have people here, I hope we have people here, I'm not sure, but coming from different countries and different cultures and different faith. So I'll use the word faith kind of loosely here, but as an example, that I have this strong faith in mankind, or you might say in society, that we're going to take care of each other. And so that's really important to me. And right now, that's being tested. Okay? And so I need to be careful. I need to not lose that faith in society, not just in my little Colorado community, but in my country, in the world, that we're really going to take care of each other. So that's where I think about first when I think about prioritizing my relationship with myself. And then I need to take care of my health, and that may come up in different ways during the conversation. But when I think about my health, I need to get outside. I need to get outside in nature because that's real. For me, that's healthy. I need to be surrounded by animals. And I know some of us are animal lovers and some of us are not. And for years I wasn't. And so, and I don't know if he's going to come over or not, but my dog Rexy is here with me. And so this is one of the benefits of working from home right now. I'm with my dog Rexy 100% of the time. And it's been so good for me to be surrounded by animals. And boy, he's getting spoiled. He's getting used to, he has all 4 of his people in the house at the same time. He doesn't even know how to handle all 4 of us being here. But another thing, when I think about our relationship with ourselves, and especially for me, I think we need to be kinder, not just to other people, but we need to be kinder to ourselves. We need to be more forgiving. We need to be more understanding. Maybe we need to be a little less judgmental of ourselves. I need to not worry so much. Is the house as clean as it should be? My husband was working last night and I cooked dinner for my two kids, and where they have lived, they're used to some pretty good meals. And I think I said to my daughter, I said, I'm sorry, dinner's not great. And she goes, dinner's great, Mom. And I said, well, I don't know. She goes, Mom, you cooked it, and just happy that someone was taking care of her. So I think we need to be a little less judgmental of ourselves at this time.
Yeah, that's perfect. I was about to say the same thing, but before I move on to the next question, there's one thing that there's a lot that you've just said, right? So if I give priority to myself, then for some people it's not acceptable. Even I have very close bonding and relationship with them. So how to balance that thing that you even prioritize yourself, still you have all the positive impact on the other relationships.
Yeah. And I'll tell you, I struggle with this. So I struggle with this a lot. Because sometimes I feel I'm being selfish.
Yeah, exactly. I don't want to use the word.
Yeah, no, and so I'll use the word. So sometimes I feel I'm being selfish. And again, maybe, I come back to my mom so often. She was a big influence in my life. But she taught me in many different ways that if I don't take care of myself, there's no way I can help take care of anybody else. And so sometimes I feel I'm being selfish when I take my dog Rexy, and I would go out for long walks almost every day. And I feel I'm being selfish, that I should be home, I should be on the computer, I should be taking care of my customers. Maybe I feel I should be cleaning the house a little better. But if I don't take care of myself, then I can't take care of anyone else. And if you don't like that phrase, take care of, if I don't take care of myself, then I can't be there, or I can't fully be there for other people, because I'm so distracted and stressed, and then anxiety is building up. But I think what you're asking, I think we all struggle with it. How to balance our relationship with ourselves and what may be viewed as being selfish, and also balance our relationships with everybody else.
Yeah. So I think that was the second part of the question relates to that. So in the relationship with yourself, so what do you struggle most with?
And that, I think maybe that's a much harder question, and maybe a harder question to admit to myself, or to admit to other people. But I think we're all friends here on the call. What I'm struggling with the most in my relationship with myself is I'm struggling to allow myself to be happy. And so I'll admit it to all of you. I'm really happy right now. And that may sound horrible for me to say that. There's so much sadness in the world right now, and there's so much sickness, and there's so much death in the world. And my heart breaks. I mean, it absolutely breaks for all those people who are struggling with their health and with the health of their loved ones. And there's so many people struggling right now with finances. And I'll tell you, I think a lot about my own finances right now, my own business. But on the flip side, or on the other side, I have my two kids. You don't like when I call them kids, but I have my two kids living with me right now. And if it wasn't for the virus, my husband and I and the two kids, the four of us would not be in this house together. And so I feel that this opportunity has been given to me, and maybe it's not fair, but this opportunity has been given to me to be with my kids, to be with my family, and I'm really happy about it. But I struggle. I struggle internally to be so happy in such a sad time for so many people in the world.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, that's so sad that, like, actually suddenly has happened. I don't know how, but yes, it's a sad reality of the world right now. So we are talking about different relationships. We have talked about, like, the relationships with ourselves. So now let's talk about the relationships that we do with our partners and or with the housemates, with the people we live with. So what we can do to prioritize these relationships.
So when I think about the relationship with my partner, my husband, and my housemates, so my housemates are my two children. Okay? So the four of us are living in the house together as adults. Okay? And my son goes to school full time, and so he's working he's working. I say schoolwork. He's working full time with his schoolwork. I'm working full time. My husband is a chef, and he's not working full time, okay? But he gets to leave the house for a few hours a day, a few days a week. And my daughter also works outside of the house a few hours a day, most days of the week. And so we've done a few things to help us get along, okay? Or we've done a few things because we're all adults, used to our own lives and used to our own freedoms. And now we're sharing a house, and even harder, we're sharing cars. Okay. And my husband has to get to work. My daughter has to get to work. And so a few things we've done is we've set up zones in our house. Okay. And so as an example, we have a family room, and we've set the family room up as a no work zone. So if you want to work, you go to your bedroom, or I have a home office, which makes it easy for me. And my son, if he wants to do his schoolwork, he goes into his bedroom and he closes the door. But no work is allowed in our family room. So our family room is for social time. And I think that has helped us a lot. Okay? Another thing we've done is we've agreed on meals for the most part. So again, there's four people, and my husband's a professional chef, which can be good and bad. But with meals, we've agreed that breakfast is on our own. We eat when we want, not together. Lunch is on our own. We eat when we want, not together. But at least when my husband's home, all four of us will have dinner together. And if he's working at the restaurant, then the three of us will have dinner together. And so we've set up routines that have helped us. We've set up what I'll call quiet zones, and we've set up rules. So as an example, my work phone can't leave my office. Okay? And this has really, we figured out how to give each other physical space, but how to give each other time space. And we're trying to find ways to have fun also. So we watch movies together, we do puzzles together, but something kind of unique. Both of my kids are athletes, and I mean real athletes. And so each night, and usually it's about 8 o'clock at night after my husband gets home from work, we have a pull-up contest. So I won't demonstrate, but we have a bar, and we hang on the bar, and then we have a contest to see who can do the most pull-ups. And I'll tell you, I don't win those contests. Okay? But my two kids are very competitive with each other. And we have found a way to coexist. But even more than coexisting, we have found a way to really enjoy being together, and to just have fun being together. Okay? We don't watch the news. We watch movies together, but we don't watch the news together. We maybe talk about the virus, but I would say we don't talk about it for more than 5 minutes a day together because and it's not that we're ignoring it, but we've almost created this little bubble for our family that I think is really working well.
Okay. So I know few people who enjoy their own company. But what if you're living alone? How you go about that? How you will manage that?
Well, and and some of us who are living in a family unit right now, some of us joke, boy, I wish I was living alone. But I'll be honest, I'm glad I'm not living alone. I think this is a really hard time. And so I'm so glad that I'm in a family unit. My daughter was living in Dubai and working in Dubai, and we flew her home a few weeks ago because I just wanted her home. My son was living in Arizona, and we went to get him, and so we brought him home just a few days ago. But for the most part, my son was living alone. But if you're living alone, I think we need to visualize this time as a time of opportunity and find something and I say a project, I'm a project manager, find something you've always wanted to do and use this time of isolation to do it. And maybe, I'll just give one or two examples. My daughter, and again, I said she was living and working in Dubai. She was working with a lot of people from India in Dubai. And so she's come home, and her project, which I think is real funny, her project is to learn Hindi. So here you have this young Caucasian girl, teenager, living in the US, and she's she's using online apps and she's trying to learn Hindi. And so I think that helps her a lot with the isolation. I told you my husband's a chef, but he's only working a few hours a day because the restaurant's just doing takeout and they're only open a few days a week. So again, he needs to find something to do with his time. And so he started this YouTube channel where he's teaching people how to cook real fancy meals over YouTube. So I think if we're living alone, we need to find something to do that inspires us. And we need to make a project out of it. And we need to set a routine. And we need to think about goals. And again, you hear my red side coming through. But maybe on the softer side of things, if we're living alone, I think we need to find a way to reach out to other people. Maybe we reach out to other people asking them to help us. Or even more importantly, maybe we reach out to other people and we ask them, how can we help them? And again, I'll just give an example. My daughter rides horses. That's what she does for a living. And so she's reached out to several, and I don't want to use the word elderly because they might be watching this, but to several more mature people who are living alone. And she goes to their property and she checks on them every day, meaning they come out of their house and there's probably 30 feet of distance, 10 meters of distance, but they wave to each other and she takes care of their horses for them. I think if we're living alone, we need to find a way to reach out to other people and ask, can we help? Find ways to help other people. That's what I would do if I was living alone.
Okay, I guess living alone could actually give us a self-reflection time, to know what we can do in our capacity and what we even don't know what we can do, in our own capacity as well. So specifically, during this particular time that we all are facing around the globe, everybody has being bound inside the homes and have started working from homes. And from working from homes, they are sitting in front of the laptops, the mobile phones, etc., and attending 20 plus Zoom calls a day. Even myself, like, I'm starting from 9 o'clock in the morning and I'm still not finished, till 5 o'clock in the evening. And, I'm so tired by just attending Zoom calls the entire day. So, during these entire Zoom calls, we are, meeting our co-workers. They could be our subordinates. They could be, our line managers, our colleagues, etc. So how do, at this point in time, with multiple calls, consecutively, how can we prioritize these kind of relationships with our co-workers, in this difficult schedule?
And it's a struggle because we have so many relationships, with ourselves, with our family, with our housemates or roommates, and then we have those relationships with our coworkers. And I don't know if we can prioritize every relationship. And again, that's hard to say. And I'm on a lot of Zoom calls too. And one of the things I'm trying to do, though maybe I'm not too good at it yet, is to try to check in with people on a personal nature for at least the first few minutes before we get into the business side of the call. And I think we're also rushed that'd be really hard to do. But to check in with people when the call is asking, or right when the call is starting, and asking people, how are things going in your life? How are things going at home? You had a great session yesterday with Tracy talking about body language. And one of the things I try to do on Zoom calls, though it depends how big the call is to watch people's body language and to look at their language and to see, are there people struggling maybe who are on the call? And if I see someone's body language and I think maybe they're struggling, is there a way I can send them a private message, or, crazy as it sounds, call them on the phone? But we might not be able to prioritize every relationship with every coworker. But can we seek out those people who might be struggling, or seek out those people who might be living alone, and find a way to connect with them?
And what about the customers that we are having? For those people who are doing the businesses, they are having customers, and I guess you are one of them. You must be having, your ongoing customers. So what we can do with them?
Yeah, and customers, that's a trickier one. Right now, I have about 160, okay, active, meaning active paid customers, and then I have a lot more potential customers. And I don't know the answer there. I'll tell you what I'm thinking about. I'm thinking about what we've learned with our coworkers, meaning we've learned to use Zoom, we've learned to have these online meetings, we've learned to work remotely, but still keep these relationships with our coworkers. And I'm asking myself, how do I apply that same learning? So how do I apply that same learning with coworkers to my customers? So as an example, I do a Zoom call, okay? And my Zoom call used to be with my customers, okay? So I used to do a Zoom call every week, and I would have, I'd invite all my customers, and maybe about a third of them would come. So I would do a Zoom call every week with about 50 of my customers. And some of you realize this, one of the big things I do is I teach PMP prep classes, helping people get the PMP credential. So once a week, I'd do a 1 hour plus session with current customers where we'd go through sample questions, but it would give them a chance to engage with me and ask me questions. And what I've done is I've opened that up to not just current customers, but to anyone who's trying to pass the exam. And so I just opened, so last week I had 100 people on the call, over 100 people. I have a call tomorrow and I have over 250 people signed up. Okay? And so this is my way of using what so many of us have learned through Zoom, through working remotely, and try to offer it to my customers too. But I don't know if I have a great answer for that yet.
That is a great answer. Yeah, because I can relate to it. I was having a session previously with the company where the sales guy exactly asked me the same thing: how we can connect with customers when we know that we won't be getting the new business, even the current business is very difficult to retain, right? So that is a great answer in terms that you need to connect with your customers, help them out, and ask them what you can do for them, right? So, going back to what Rabia has mentioned about the Zoom calls, sometimes it becomes so frantic. Like, you are on a Zoom call, then you are on a phone call, then again you're on a Zoom call. So, at times when you're not having a call, either Zoom call or phone call, you feel like a zombie, right? And there's a new term has come into existence, which is called not zombie but zombie. So, on a lighter note, so see, since we are all homebound and we are adjusting to new normal, quite a few of us are really missing their social lives, right? So, if you ask people what you're gonna do once the lockdown is over, somebody will say, "I'll get a pizza or a cheeseburger or something like that." They want to step outside, meet people. So, what we can do here? So, what is the first thing that we need to do?
Okay. Yeah, and that was a struggle for me too, because in some ways I'm an introvert, but in some ways I have an active social life. But my social life was active with a very small group of people, a small group of people. And often we would go out to a restaurant together and talk about life and our family and things. And I really missed that in the beginning, okay, when we started all of this social distancing. So again, I'll share an example. So I mentioned that I have 7 brothers and sisters, right? And we live in 6 different states and 2 different countries. And one of my sister Anne suggested, why don't we have, and she didn't use the word Zoom, but why don't we do something online where we're all together? Okay. Now, all of my brothers and sisters are older than me. Almost all of them are retired. And so it got put on me, of course, okay, because I'm the one that knows the technology. Aileen, maybe you could set something up. And so about 3 weeks ago, we started Zoom calls. And so it's me, and then it's my 7 brothers and sisters. And we're doing a Zoom call once a week. And I think we've had 3 or 4 now. And what's really, I find real interesting is the 8 of us have not been in the same room together since our mother died 17 years ago. Okay. And it took this virus. I mean, technology's been out there for years, but it took this virus to get us all in the same room. And I say the same room, but I mean the same Zoom call with 8 pictures up. It took this virus to bring us together, after all of us together at the same time, after 17 years. And I know that's a family example, but I'm doing similar things with friends too. So with my brothers and sisters, it was a little awkward at first because we just haven't been together in so long. And we started a project, and again, you can see my project manager, but my brother Mike got this project started, and we're writing a book together. And maybe the book will never get published, but it doesn't matter. It's something we're working on together. And Mike.
Eileen, I think we have lost you.
It's okay. She'll come back.
Yeah.
But she was so right.
Yeah, exactly.
When it is really about social distancing, so when she'll be back, I'll definitely be letting her know that during this point in time, the LIMSI people, the LIMSI classes, I have seen so many pictures on my Facebook wall that people are doing Zoom calls, the Lindsay. So she's back, I guess.
No, she's not back. But again, yes, the pictures have become the new cult because, like, if you're not doing a Zoom call, whether you're in your office or with your friends or even your family, so you do not exist in the virtual world, right? So
So I guess I'm just cutting you in the middle. So my Lindsay fellows are there in this call, and so I guess the most different thing that we have done as a Lindsay class is we have watched a 3 hours movie together on a Zoom call. So this is Lindsay 2020. So cheers for them. So she's back.
So yeah,
Hi
so
back.
sorry about that. This is one of my realities of working from home is I lose my internet. That where I live, that the system just can't handle so many of us working from home. And so
Yeah.
it's just after 9 o'clock in the morning where I am. And I think that's when a lot of people start working. And so I apologize for that.
No, no,
But
it's
yeah,
fine.
we're talking about our social life. And so,
Yeah.
you know, my family, we're doing these Zoom calls and I'm doing Zoom calls with friends. So I think I'm taking what I've learned about Zoom with our coworkers. I'm trying to apply it to my relationship with my customers, and I'm trying to apply it to my friends, my extended family. But it takes effort. And so I think we have to decide to make that effort.
And I would just add here that maybe, this point in time, the way we are doing and the way we are going with the time and the situations around us, it has actually changed the definitions of many things as well. So I guess the social life definition is being now changed with the physical meetups only and being mutually, connected virtually somewhere through Zoom calls, or it could be a WhatsApp group call, so it could be anything, Facebook live session we are having it here. So I guess the definitions are also changed. Okay, so we are talking about different relationships. In the beginning you have mentioned that you have just started loving the relationship with the animals and the nature, right? So tell us more about the relationships that we can have, and the impact that it can create with the animals that we have and the nature.
Yeah, and I I think we have different views, or people have different views on nature. People have different views on animals. But if we start with nature, and I try to get outside every day, and I try to get outside at least once, at least once a day. And you brought up this idea that we're going from Zoom call to Zoom call. And what I'm trying to do, if I can, between each call, is go out in my backyard for 5 or 10 minutes and just, they say vitamin D is really good for us right now. So getting outside in the sunshine and getting outside in nature. My dog Rexy, he he he's so happy right now. We're going out for walks, and it might be early in the morning or it might be early in the evening, but we're going out for walks, and not for 5 or 10 minutes, but for an hour or for 90 minutes. And I don't bring my phone. I probably should for, safety reasons, but I live in a really safe place. But there's no phone, there's no computer. So I'm not listening to music. It's just me and my dog out there. And that's out in nature. And sometimes we go out in the mountains and we don't see anybody. I mean, we don't see anybody for those 60 minutes or those 90 minutes. And I think it's just, for me, it's really good for my emotions. It's really good for my heart to get out there in nature. Another thing, I told you that my daughter's job is she rides horses, or she races horses. And so she's the horseback rider, not really me. But every other day I go with her and we go and we ride horses together. And sometimes I ride, and sometimes I just go and get them in the field, and I groom them and I spend time with them. And I think there's something magical about horses. I mean, I love my dog Rexy, and he's right here now. But there's something magical about horses. I think they're mirrors to our soul. And so whatever I'm feeling, these horses, and it could be different horses because my daughter has different customers, but whatever I'm feeling, these horses reflect it right back to me. And so if I'm feeling anxious, then they're anxious. And I realize if they're anxious, it means I brought it to them. Okay. Because that's not their nature where they are. And it reminds me that I'm too anxious or I'm too nervous. And I need to slow down my breathing. And I need to look around at the trees and the sky. And and I feel differently. I feel differently after I've spent time with these horses. And so part of me says, my business is struggling. There is no time for me to go and spend time with these horses, but yet I'm being selfish again. And I'm just going and I'm taking care of myself. And so the horses really help me.
Okay. Um, yeah. With this question, I have something in my mind. How important it is to connect with your own self.
And I think that's the most important thing is that we have to know what's important to us. And, I said my faith and my health and family and friends. And then we need to know how to make those things a priority. And so when you were, both of you, when you were in class with me, when we talked about relationships, we talked about we have to know ourselves. And now I'm adding to that, it's not just to know ourselves, but we have to take care of ourselves. And I know how to take care of myself now. And I think not that I didn't know before, but that has become loud and clear to me in the last few weeks. That there's so much stress and there's so much anxiety. And I've just got to get off of Zoom sometimes. And I've got to go take care of myself.
Yeah. So, just a little addition to this question: what if relationships around you do not allow you to connect to your own self? How do you react to that?
And I think that happens, and I think that happens a lot for so many of us. And I have a friend now, and I have lots of friends, but I have a friend now who's really struggling with this. He's in a home with family, and they're on lockdown, and there's so much anxiety in this home where he's living, and I struggle to help him because he's not taking care of himself, okay? Because of other relationships pressing on him. And my advice, and I know it's easy for me to say, but we've got to set up some ground rules with relationships. Okay? And so I've done this with my kids and my husband, and to be honest, they've done it with me too. And so as an example, one of the ground rules is, my son is in college full time, and right now he's taking 4 upper level computer science classes, and then he's taking another class too. I mean, I don't want to say he doesn't want to be at home, but he wants to be focused on school. And so the ground rule is if his bedroom door is closed, it means he's doing schoolwork. And we're not to go in there unless we're bringing him food. Okay? And so I think it may sound like he's being selfish, but that's what he needs to do to take care of himself. And so when we've got all these relationships pushing on us, we've got to set ground rules and say to other people, I can't give anything to you until I take care of myself first.
So I'll go with the next question. This particular time has made us bound. As we all are living in homes. Me and my brother, we both work, and we are 24/7 at homes, which we have never done. There were times when we were not even able to talk to one another because our time did not match up with, like, with the busy schedule that we do have with working things. So now we are sitting at homes talking to one another, etc. So during our Lindsay class, the very remarkable thing that I have learned were the colors. So I don't know whether the LIMSI people or the PA or the, like, the people who are linked with PMI, who had, like, seen the flyer which I had made for you, had three colors prominently there: green, blue, and red. So these were the colors to whom you have introduced us, and the idea was given to me by Fahad that, like, Aileen is a person who is actually about these three colors, because she made us realize that all of us belongs to any one of the color. So, but unfortunately, that it's only 30 to 35 people every year who are being selected for this, like, brilliant program. So just a one-liner thing, if you can explain it to us, like, the people who are watching it and will be watching it, like, after the show, that these could be the people with which we can, like, realize that, okay, my brother belongs to this color and my mother belongs to this color, or, like, the person with, like, my customer, I'm on a Zoom call, belongs to this color. So a quick definition, if we can have, of each of these three colors for the people, just a quick one, short and succinct, so that, like, it could really help us as a community at this point in time.
Yeah, and so what we're talking about here is the strength deployment inventory.
Yeah.
And there's 7 different colors, but often we bring it down to 3 or 4, and the colors relate to our motives. So my color is red. And what that means is most of the time I'm motivated to get things done. I'm motivated to win. I'm motivated to be competitive. And so you see this or you hear this in people when they're boom boom boom, we've got to move faster, we've got to get things done, there's no time to talk about how are you feeling. Okay, and so and I'm being negative, I don't mean to be, I can make fun of my own color. Okay, but I'm struggling to be red right now because I can't focus so much on getting things done. Okay? Another color is green, or people who are greener. Okay? And so greener people focus on methodologies and principles. What I see a lot right now from greener people is they're focusing on the data. And so there's so much data out there related to the virus, and the greener people are questioning a lot of the data. And so we need those greener people, because some of the data can be misleading, or it can be misrepresented or misinterpreted at times. And so greener people focus on methodology and data. I heard from my friend Peg yesterday, and she was talking about her greener side and about distancing. Sometimes greener people like space. They like space from each other. When we talk about bluer people, so people who are bluer focus on relationships, and they focus a lot on helping others. And I'm really surprised over the last few weeks, we're a combination of all 3 colors, but how much my bluer side is coming through. And I didn't think I had that much of a bluer side, but it really is coming through as I focus on how do I help others, my kids, how do I help my customers. And then right in the middle of those 3 colors, we have what we call the hubs. So the hub people are the networkers. So hub people usually know a lot of people, and they help people connect with each other. And so we call these the hub people. And so one of the great things about the SDI, or these colors, is it helps us understand ourselves a little bit better, and then other people, and maybe why we struggle sometimes in relationships.
Okay, we have a question for you from Rosanna. So this is going to flash on your screen right now.
So from Rosanna, how can we keep and grow relationships with our chapter officers when people seem to be busier than before. Okay? And so, Rosanna, I think that's a great question, and it's similar to the question: how do we keep our relationship with our coworkers? And my chapter, we had our dinner meeting last night. Okay, and so our dinner meeting, we each had dinner in our homes, and we had the most wonderful speaker last night. But what we did differently than what we would do at a dinner meeting is the first 45 minutes was facilitated networking. And another time I can explain more how we did that. But at our real dinner meetings, when they're face to face, we network with the people at our table, and that's it. And so we used Zoom, and I won't go into details, but instead of having 2 hours of presentations, we had about 45 minutes of facilitated networking for the chapter membership. And I think that was great for us to connect with each other. But you asked about chapter officers, and maybe it's when we have our Zoom calls or whatever calls we have as a board, maybe we take the first 10 or 15 minutes and we just talk about how we're doing. Okay? So we have another program in my chapter, and it's called Wine, Women, and Collaboration. And what we used to do, because we don't have many women in my chapter, it is the way it is. And so we would meet once every other month at a restaurant or a bar, and there would be wine and only women, and we would share struggles that we were having. Maybe the struggles, some of them were specific because we were women, but some of them were not. And now we're doing Wine, Women, and Collaboration we're using GoToMeeting, and we're doing it every month now. And it's a different way to help us connect with each other. So I think if we make the relationships a priority and slow down and say maybe talking about how we're doing for 10 or 15 minutes is more important than figuring out what are we going to do with our revenue going down a little bit. Well, Rosanna, it's nice to see you.
Yeah, and again, it's a very, very good question, because we almost all of us who are PMI volunteers and are part of chapter boards go through this situation over and over again. So thank you, Rosanna, for bringing this up and asking, and Aileen, thank you for providing so good justification or answer. So a couple of years ago, when we met, my MC class, and also just a few months ago, that when Rabia was in your MC class. So we always talked about motives when we are, learning SDI and colors, and how our motives change when we get into conflict. So what do you think how the current situation has impacted us, and are we in a conflict?
Yeah, and so I think it's a good question, and if there's people on the call right now, maybe you could answer it too in the chat area. But do you feel that you're in conflict right now? Okay, I do. I feel that I'm in conflict right now, and who am I in conflict with? I'm in conflict with the virus. I mean that's who I'm in conflict with. And when I think about my conflict cycle, my first stage is red, and in red we want to get up and we want to fight. And I want to get up and I want to fight this virus because it's impacting so many people in such a negative way, both from their physical health standpoint, but so many people, their emotional health is struggling. So I feel I am in conflict, and to be honest, I don't know how to fight the virus. So I'm just doing the small things that I can do. I'm helping my customers, I'm helping my neighbors, maybe I'm helping some individuals who are living alone, and that's how I'm dealing personally with this conflict. And maybe that's something we each can do. What's the small thing we can do to fight the conflict or and to fight the virus. And maybe it's by helping the people who are struggling the most with it.
Okay. So one thing is for sure, 2020 Lipsy class is watching, because I put another question from Mayur Mehta and it's right on your screen right now.
Okay. So, hey, nice to see you. Building relationships during isolation is one of the cornerstones with servant leadership. With the COVID-19 occurring, the amount of processing has dramatically increased. What time management techniques do you recommend? Okay. And so I want to tell you, I have been working from home for years, meaning most of the people on the call I probably met because you're part of LIMSI. And so you saw I went and taught that or facilitated that session. And I go and I teach PMP prep courses live, but I spend a lot of time working from home. And so and a lot of my business is online. So time management is huge for me. And so I won't grab it right now, but I have a paper calendar. Okay. And in my paper calendar, I put all my appointments in. And when we talk about time management, not just business appointments, but I put appointments in for my health. So I schedule the night before when I'm going to go walk my dog. So that's already, and my schedule is it's 9:30 for me. So 10 o'clock today, it's on my schedule, okay, that I'm going to go walk my dog. And I schedule when I'm going to go with my daughter to visit the horses and to ride the horses. But I think we need routines. I get up at the same time every day. So I get up between 6 and 6:30 in the morning every single day. Every single day I start with some stretching, some yoga, and my kids have been really good at this. We draw a line on my calendar what time I'm going to stop work every day. And I stop work at that time, and I turn off my phone and I turn off my computer. I think another thing I do, and again, I'm not saying it's going to work for everybody, but I think of things in 30-minute blocks. Okay? And so on my calendar, I think of things in 30-minute blocks, and I only work for 25 of those 30 minutes. And then for 5 minutes, I stand up, I stretch, I usually go out in my backyard. And that just gives me, it gives me time to clear my head. And so again, I know you're not all in control of your schedule or your conference calls, but is there a way to think of things in 30-minute blocks? Or maybe for you, it has to be hour-long blocks. But then can you have 10 minutes at the end of every hour-long block where you stop? And if you can't get outside, where you open your window, okay? And you don't check your phone and you don't check your computer, and you stretch, okay? Or, you go get a glass of water or a cup of tea. But I don't want to say strict because that sounds bad, but I have a very strict schedule, including break times, including getting, nature and animal times, and I stick with it. And that's the only way my family could survive together.
Okay, before we close closing comments, I just one more question from my side. How we can open our emotional window? You just said that open the window, so that came to mind. How we can open our emotional window? Because in relationships we have to do that, right?
Yeah, and I think in some relationships it's easier than others, and I think it's like weightlifting. So when you go to lift weights for the first time, you don't grab a 100-pound barbell. You start with a 10-pound, and you start with something light. And so I think in each of our relationships, we need to open that window slowly and build trust, and then let the trust continue and continue. And for me, a good relationship is with my brothers and sisters. Again, there's 8 of us, and you can say we're brothers and sisters, but we haven't been together in 17 years. And we haven't lived in the same, I don't want to say it out loud, but I will. We haven't lived in the same house in 50 years. Okay. And so while there should be all this emotional sharing, it's not there. Okay, because we've all have our own kids and our own lives, and that's been true for decades. And so with our Zoom calls, I think we're opening that emotional window slowly. We started our calls talking about weather and talking about what are the rules in each of our states or each of our countries. And so just talking about facts. And now we're talking about more personal things. How are we dealing with isolation? And how are we getting along with our spouses or our partners? Because that's a big struggle for a lot of people right now. So sometimes people just try to open the window wide up, and you get all the wind comes in and you get knocked out. And so I mean, maybe not the best analogy, but I would do it slowly, and I think it's like learning, or it's like weightlifting. You can't lift weights 4 times a year and expect to get stronger. We've got to go to this, and I say go to the gym. Okay, we lift weights in our basement, but we've got to do it 3 or 4 times a week, and we've got to be consistent. And if you lift 10 pounds, a barbell, but you do that 10 pounds for a year, you don't get any stronger. And so I think we've got to start sharing with people slowly and opening ourselves up, but we've got to do it a little bit at a time, and we've got to be real consistent with it. And then the more we do that, the bigger the window we can open up.
Great.
So, thank you so much. What would be your closing comment for the people watching you right now?
And I think maybe I have 2. I think one is you need to focus on taking care of yourself, whatever that means to you. You need to understand what makes you feel good, what makes you feel safe, what makes you feel healthy. And then you need to set time on your calendar, if you use a calendar, but you need to set time, and you need to make those things your priority. And then the second thing I would say, and you can really hear my bluer side coming through right now, is you need to figure out who in your community, and community can mean lots of things, but you need to figure out who in your community is struggling. Okay. So who are those people who are alone, or maybe they're not alone, but they're in an unsafe environment, or they're in a hostile environment, but who are those people in your community who are struggling? And we've got to find a way to go help those people. We've got to find a way to go help the vulnerable, and not just people who are vulnerable to the virus from a physical health standpoint, but who are vulnerable right now because of their virus, vulnerable from an emotional standpoint. And now my red will come through. The more you help people, the better you're going to feel yourself. So helping people can be real selfish in a good way.
And the red would say, start now.
I know. It's funny because on Zoom calls, sometimes I see like when you're in front of a group, you don't see yourself doing this. But on Zoom calls, more than once, I've seen myself doing this. So yesterday when I did my video, I had my hands on the wall because I wanted to make sure I didn't do something like that.
So thank you so much, Aileen, for giving us the time, giving us your experience. It really helps us, as LIMSI participants, and now I'm pretty sure that it must have, helped everybody, in our community as well. So thank you so very much for being here and giving us the honor.
And
I appreciate very much you included me.
Yeah, no, because that has to be you, because for us, for both of us, since we have both been part of LIMSI classes, the colors theory has changed our lives, right? And we actually got to know how to get hold of that emotional states, and that help us basically build relationship with our peers, colleagues, and people around us. So nobody is better than you, because in this time of trouble or crisis, everybody is going through the same situation, right? So, and that human connection is very, very important and very soothing, and very much required. So thank you very much for coming in and sharing your thoughts and sharing your knowledge. And again, in your own unique style, I really enjoyed it. I'm sure Rabia enjoyed it. You can see the smile on face, and everybody. We've got a lot of good comments. Comments are coming in, and people are. Fabio just joined, and he said he missed the live session, but he will be seeing the recording. So that's how important for all of us to be in this session.
Well,
Thank
thank
you
you
so
again.
much.
Thank you.
Take care. Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye bye. Bye.